something is wrong. And I don't mean wrong like a bad race result or a controversial call. I mean wrong like the kind of thing you feel before you can explain it. Like watching a door slowly close on someone while everyone in the room pretends not to see it. That's what's happening right now in NASCAR. And the person it's happening to has 4.6 million people watching his every move. So why is nobody talking about this the right way? Stay with me, because this one goes somewhere most people aren't ready for. Let's start with what you already know about Cletus McFarland. YouTuber, car guy, Freedom Factory owner. The guy who turned a rundown Florida racetrack into one of the most genuinely exciting grassroots motorsport venues in the country. You probably already respect him, and if you don't, the numbers will change your mind fast. 4.6 million subscribers, sold out events, Richard Childress Racing backing his NASCAR campaign, a multi-year deal with Polaris that just went public. On paper, this man is winning on every single front. So why does something feel deeply, uncomfortably off? Because here's what nobody is saying out loud yet. While everything around Cletus is accelerating, NASCAR just slammed the brakes. And the reason they gave? It doesn't hold up, not even close. And the more you look at it, the more it starts to feel like this isn't really about safety or process at all. This is where things get uncomfortable. April 2026. NASCAR blocks Cletus McFarland from racing the O'Reilly Series event at Talladega. Not because he wrecked anyone, not because he's a danger to the field. The official line is progression. They want to see more, step by step. Earn it. And sure, the first time you hear that, it almost sounds reasonable. Almost. But then you find out what happened the same day they said no to him, and it changes everything. That same day, Cletus ran 4th in the ARCA East race at Rockingham. 4th out of a full field. Later that afternoon, he made his O'Reilly debut, got caught up in early chaos that had nothing to do with him, and still finished. Brought the car home, didn't spin the field, didn't cause a single incident. And NASCAR looked at all of that and said, not yet, not good enough, wait your turn. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because it gets worse. Every single weekend in this series, experienced drivers miss pit road completely. They spin out on their own. They wreck each other racing for positions that mean absolutely nothing in the standings. They take out 3 cars at once, fighting for 14th place. And they come back the very next race. No waiting, no progression requirements, no stepping back down to prove themselves again. They just show up and do it again. But Cletus finishes a race cleanly and gets told to wait. Does that feel like process to you? Because it doesn't feel like process to me. It feels like something else entirely. And that's not even the strangest part. The Rockingham O'Reilly race pulled a 0.65 cable rating, over 1.165 million viewers. That's a 12% rating increase and an 11% total audience increase compared to the same event last year. The series is now averaging over 1.28 million viewers per race, rising consistently. Now, nobody is going to claim Cletus McFarland is solely responsible for that. But nobody with honest eyes can look at those numbers and say his presence had nothing to do with it either. The timing is too clean, the correlation is too obvious, and the people inside NASCAR know it. Richard Childress has acknowledged the value he brings. Steve O'Donnell talks about wanting to see progression. John Probst says it's not a permanent no. But notice what nobody is actually saying. Nobody is pointing to a single race where Cletus caused a problem, not one. So what exactly are they waiting for? And here's where the story breaks open completely. Because while NASCAR is telling him to slow down and wait his turn, something else entirely is happening on the other side of this story. Something that moves in a completely different direction. And once you see it, You can't unsee it. April 7th, 2026. Polaris announces a multi-year partnership with Cletus McFarland. And before you scroll past that thinking it's just another sponsor deal, stop, because this is not a sponsor deal. I need you to understand that clearly before we go any further. This is not a logo on a car and some social media posts. This is not a discount code and a handshake. What Polaris actually did is something companies almost never do this early in a creator's racing journey. And the language they use tells you everything. They didn't talk about lap times. They didn't talk about race finishes or championship points. They talked about operations. They talked about content. They talked about Freedom Factory activations and fan experiences. They embedded themselves into the entire ecosystem Cletus spent years building. Not on top of it, inside it. That's a completely different thing. And if you understand how corporate partnerships actually work, that distinction should stop you cold. When a brand of Polaris's size steps inside your operations, it means one thing clearly. They see something worth owning, a piece of long-term, not a moment, a movement. And that means they've already run the numbers. They've already seen the audience data, the engagement rates, the event attendance figures. They already know what NASCAR's own ratings increase is quietly hinting at. Cletus McFarland is not a novelty act. He is a media and motorsport business with real, measurable value. And Polaris just put a flag in it. But here's the part that nobody is saying. And this is the part I want you to actually think about. Because it cuts in both directions. Everything Cletus built, everything that makes people trust him, everything that fills the Freedom Factory and keeps 4.6 million people subscribed and actually engaged, it was built on one thing. Total independence, no filters, no corporate voice in the room, just raw, unscripted, chaotic, real energy that felt like something you never get from official motorsport. That's not a small thing. That's the entire foundation. And now Polaris isn't just sponsoring that foundation. They're load-bearing. They're part of how the events run. They're part of the equipment, the builds, the content experience, the vehicles his crew uses on the property. Day one of the deal, Cletus surprised his crew with a full Polaris off-road fleet. Not eventually, immediately. That's not a branding exercise. That's operational integration. And operational integration means something very specific in the real world. It means influence. Not necessarily bad influence, but influence, expectations, a presence in decision-making rooms that wasn't there before. And when your entire identity is built on answering to nobody, that shift is the most important thing that has happened to your brand in years, maybe ever. And I'm not saying it ends badly. I'm not predicting a sellout or a collapse of authenticity. But I am saying that pretending this is just another deal is the wrong call. The thing that made Cletus untouchable was the feeling that nobody owned him. And now somebody does. A piece of him, at least. And that changes the feeling, even if it doesn't change the man. Fans feel these things before they can articulate them. And when fans start feeling it, the numbers eventually follow. So now layer everything together. Because this is where the full picture gets genuinely strange. NASCAR is holding him at the gate on super speedways, citing process, citing progression. While experienced drivers who cause actual chaos get unlimited second chances. Meanwhile, Cletus is out here not just racing, he's expanding. Reports say he's adding a pro late model division to his Crown Vic events. He's already bought the cars. Freedom Factory weekends are getting bigger, more divisions, more real competition, more reasons for serious racing fans to make the trip. He's not sitting still waiting for NASCAR to approve him. He's building an entire world that doesn't require that approval. And that part, that quiet, patient, methodical expansion happening completely outside of NASCAR's structure, That's the most important thing in this entire story. Think about what this looks like from the outside right now. A 4.6 million subscriber content platform. A racetrack he owns outright. Events pulling real crowds with real energy. A growing multi-class racing program. A major corporate partnership embedded at the operational level. Factory-backed NASCAR involvement through Richard Childress Racing. And NASCAR itself saying, "Prove more first." To who? To what? He's already proved it to 4.6 million people. He's already proved it to Polaris. He's already proved it to Richard Childress. The only entity still withholding the approval is the one that needs him the most right now. And they might not realize how loud that looks from the outside. Here's the thing that gets me. When a driver gets denied, the story usually shrinks. It gets smaller and quieter. The audience moves on, the buzz fades. That's how it almost always works. With Cletus, the exact opposite keeps happening. The denial made the story bigger. The audience grew louder. The deals got more significant. The expansion accelerated. That pattern doesn't happen by accident. That pattern means the energy has already escaped the building. And the institution doing the denying might already be chasing something that has moved past them. So this is where we actually land. Not on a clean answer, because there isn't one. Polaris is in, NASCAR is hesitating, Cletus is building, the audience is growing, and somewhere in the gap between what NASCAR is approving and what the audience is already choosing, something is quietly deciding itself without anybody's permission. The real question isn't whether Cletus McFarland belongs on super speedways. That conversation is basically already over. The real question is whether NASCAR figures out what's happening in time to be part of where this is going. Or whether they're still talking about progression while the rest of the world is already 3 steps ahead. Where do you stand on this? Is NASCAR being careful and methodical? Or are they watching something they built the audience for slowly walk out the door? Drop it below, because this conversation is far from finished.